A week after my grandfather's funeral, his solicitor handed me a leather portfolio. Inside were 25 letters. He had been writing them for 5 years. He never mentioned them, not once, not to me, not to anyone. In one of them, there is a sentence he says he had never written down in his entire life, not in 100 years. I'm going to read it to you, but first, you need to know who he was.
I came to America in 1947. I was 21. The war was over, England was gray and rationed, and I arrived with 2 suitcases and a letter of introduction that turned out to be useless. I took a position in a textile firm. I worked from 6 in the morning until 8 at night, 6 days a week for 3 years. I do not recommend it, but by the end of it, I had saved enough to begin my own concern, and I had learned how cloth was made, how men were managed, and how quickly a business dies when its owner stops paying attention. Somewhere in those years, I met Eleanor. She was serving tea at a church function neither of us wanted to attend. We were married for 75 years. She is in these letters more than she would have liked. In 1965, I did the most dangerous thing I've ever done. I borrowed £40,000, an enormous sum, and bought 3 commercial buildings in a part of London nobody wanted. My father called me reckless. My banker thought me dangerous. 15 years later, I sold 2 of them for 16 times what I had paid. I tell you these things not to impress you. I tell you so that you know who is speaking when the letters begin. You do not know me, and that is just as well. What I will offer you here is not a system. It is not a method. It is one way of looking at the world that, in my long observation, separates the people who build something lasting from those who merely earn and spend. A confession before we go further. I am not a self-made man. The phrase has always struck me as foolish. Every man who has built anything was made, in part, by those who came before. There are things in here I got wrong. There are letters I considered tearing up before placing them in the portfolio. The reason I did not is that the wrongness is part of what I want to leave behind. I knew almost nothing at 25. I knew slightly less than I thought I did at 50, at 100. I have arrived at a quiet kind of uncertainty that I would not have predicted. I have written these letters for my granddaughter. She is 28 and she has every advantage I lacked. What she does not have, what no young person has anymore, is a quiet voice in her ear when the decisions get hard. I hope to be that voice, briefly, for whoever reads these. Begin where you like. Skip what bores you. Return to what stings. That is the only test of wisdom that has ever mattered. Letter 1. Time is the only true currency. I am 93 as I write this. I have made a great deal of money in my life. I have also lost some and watched friends lose more. Of all of them, the wealthiest were not always the ones with the largest accounts. They were the ones who understood early that money was the easier currency to replace. When I was 24, I took a position in a textile firm. The pay was respectable, the hours were not. I worked from 6 in the morning until 8 at night, 6 days a week for 3 years. By the end of it, I'd saved enough to begin my own concern. I had also not seen my mother in 12 months when she fell ill. I arrived at the hospital 2 hours after she died. I do not think I have ever written that sentence down before. That was the moment I understood, not in my head but in my chest, that I had been spending the wrong currency. You can earn money back. You can build a fortune from nothing, given enough patience and the right kind of stubbornness. Money returns, the hours do not. Before you say yes to anything, a job, a marriage, a deal, an obligation, ask yourself what hours of your life you are agreeing to spend, then ask whether the trade is fair. There is a chair in my study by the window that looks west onto the garden. I sit in it most afternoons. The light moves across the wall in a way I have watched now for 50 years. I am no longer sure I ever needed the rest of it. Spend your money, you will earn more. Spend your time wisely, you will not. From letter 10, patience compounds, impatience destroys. There is a calculation I learned from Mrs. Atherton, who was my father's accountant and who in many ways taught me everything that has lasted about money. She wore the same gray suit every Wednesday. One afternoon she drew this for me on the back of a napkin: take £1 and double it every day for 30 days. By day 30, you have over £500 million. The arithmetic does not seem possible. We are not built to understand exponential growth. Our minds work in straight lines. A hard truth. Most people will not become wealthy because they cannot tolerate the boredom of the middle. The middle is where everything happens. You will be astonished by what 15 quiet years of patience produces. Most people never find out because they never make it past 5.
Mrs. Atherton died in 1974. I bought her gray suit from her sister at the small estate sale. I do not know why. I have never worn it. It hangs in a wardrobe in the upstairs hall.
I want to read you something that is not quite a letter. I wrote it one morning between the others, thinking of your grandmother. I have been thinking all morning of a particular afternoon in 1969. We had gone out to the garden, your grandmother and I. There had been an argument earlier, the kind I will not describe here, and we were trying, in the silent way of people in long marriages, to repair it without speaking about it directly. She knelt at one of the flower beds. I stood a few feet away, pretending to read. The light was the particular yellow it became in late September. She did not say anything for perhaps half an hour. Then she said, "The Dahlias have done well this year." I said, "Yes." That was the entire repair. Neither of us mentioned the argument again that day or after. It simply ended in the Dahlias. I have thought about this exchange many times in the years since she died. I cannot fully explain why. There are larger memories. There are more important ones. But that afternoon, the Dahlias, the silence, the unmentioned thing, is the one I return to most. What was needed was not a sentence, only the presence of the other person, willing to be unargued with. I do not know whether these letters will be useful, but they are honest. That is all I had to give.
You can earn money back, the hours you do not. The whole book is out now, 25 letters on money, time, marriage, and building a life that lasts. Read them slowly, one a day, if you can manage it. The link is below.